here we are live a few minutes later than I wanted to get started, but that's what live's all about. Life is living. And there's a lot to think about. A lot to think about when we look at what we do from day to day. I mean, think about that. What is it that you see every single moment that you're not quite sure it's going to be the same from day to day? But yet we tell ourselves, hey, we live and we do the same thing and life is mundane, but that's a perception. But then yet we get upset when something changes because we don't like to upset we don't like to upset the things that feel normal. It's an interesting thing. Just like right now, I'm having trouble with my screen on my computer. It's blinking on and off, so I can't tell if I'm live streaming or not. So there might be some of you looking at nothing, but we'll just go with it. Because today I want to get started, and I've been thinking about this one since I decided to do this. And what I'm going to talk about this morning in my experience is something that separates the people who actually change from the people who are always getting ready to change. It's not willpower. It's not discipline. It's not even information. It's not even knowledge. Knowledge is power type stuff. Information helps, but it's not that. It's this. It's knowing the difference between a moment that requires a decision and a moment that simply announces a new reality. So think about that for a second. Sometimes a hall moment, H-A-L-L, like you're walking down the hall. You leave one room and you go down the hall and you go into another room. A hall is a connector of doors, connector of spaces. Sometimes a hall moment doesn't do anything. Sometimes it's just there. Sometimes it's just not asking you to make a decision. It's just information. Something that says, hey, there's a new door here. There's a new reality here. That's how I want to frame that today. And let me just tell you what this means. I want to teach it fully today because I've been building toward it and you're ready for it, and understand that there are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pages centered around these moments that I've written over the last 3 years. And it's difficult to take something that's just like a blanket that keeps everything going and to parse it out into a stitch. But let me take each word slowly. What's the basic understanding of hall? H-A-L-L. A hall moment. Honesty aligns liberations language. Liberations meaning possessive. The language that belongs to liberation. Honesty aligns that. So I'm going to take each word slowly. Honesty. Most people think they're honest, but they lie to themselves. So honesty is not talking about honesty with other people, though that matters. That matters greatly. The specific honesty that I'm referring to is internal. It's internal. The moment you stop lying to yourself about something fundamental, that's the honesty. You stop negotiating. That very moment that you stop qualifying and reframing, managing the perception of something that you have known to be true, maybe for a long time, but have not been willing to look at directly. This is about yourself. That honesty is rare because it's very costly. It changes everything. Because once you're honest with yourself about a thing, you are now responsible for what you do with it. So now you have to do something with it. Comfort of not knowing, the ignorance is bliss idea is gone. Plausible deniability is gone. Now responsibility is yours to take. Accountability is on the table. So honesty, that's what I mean. aligns. What does it mean to be in alignment? It's a buzzword. We're going to line up. Everybody's going to be, it reminds me of the Bubble Gumpy song, line up, everybody line up. That might be my theme song on my podcast later. But when that honesty lands, that's what creates the alignment. When it goes all the way down rather than staying on the surface, something inside of us really just lines up. It begins to feel right. Like going to the chiropractor, like getting braces, everything just lines up. Something that has been off slightly or even significantly comes into a space of order, even if we can't put our finger on it or explain it. We just feel that alignment. It's not our circumstances, it's our interior. The truth of us aligns. The sense of yourself, your relationship to the truth of your own life, it aligns. See? And you'll know when it happens because it doesn't feel like excitement, right? It doesn't feel like relief. Relief comes later. It feels like clarity, a settling, a groundedness, like all of a sudden the heaviness of life is lifted and the weight of truth is sitting in a space that you can carry. A stillness in the middle of what might still be external movement and noise and to some degree crisis. Okay? Honesty aligns. The language of liberation, liberation's language, liberation's language. This is the part that takes the longest to understand, and you may or may not grasp it. You will, though, in the next 31 days of the 31 opportunities. I'm not doing this on the weekend, as you notice. The language of liberation, the actual vocabulary of freedom, the vernacular, the lexicon of life. I like that. It's not a language that you already have. It's a language that you develop. It's a language that you begin to learn and to understand. And it forms in you over time. You can't take my words and someone else's words and get the buzzwords of the quick fix of the social media scrolling. And it begins at the moment of the hall moment. And it grows from there. It's the language that lets you say, this is who I am. Not who I was assigned to be, not who is what the role or the mask required, not who the contract was built around. This actual, discovered, excavated, chosen self is me. That's a hall moment. And that language is the most valuable thing you'll ever develop. And it begins at a hall moment. The door here opens only one direction. Not just swings out. Well, all doors, once you go through, it doesn't come back in. The nature of a real hall moment is that you can't go back through. You don't get to unknow what you know. You don't get to erase. You don't get to ignore. You don't get to unsee what you've seen. You don't get to close it. Well, never mind. The door's opened, and now you have a choice, right? Now a choice is there. Not about whether the door opened. It's opened. But about whether you walk through it. Okay? This is the difficult thing for most of us. April 8th, 2023, I don't remember what happened that morning. I know what the 3 years before March the 4th, 2023 happened, and I know a lot about what was going on in those 35 days between the 4th of March and the 8th of April. But I know on April 8th, I woke up different. I can't give you a sequence of events that explains it. I had to go back and look. But I know that I had been in 35 days of the most honest internal experience of my entire life. And I'd stripped off every performance, every role, every structure that I used to keep myself from really sitting with myself. And that morning I woke up and I was through the door. I was through that door. I didn't just say, you know what, I'm free, I'm done. Because remember, freedom is not freedom from or freedom of. Freedom is freedom for life. The hall moment there on that morning had been accumulating silently for 35 days. Honestly, for 48 years. For 35 days. Honesty was doing its work. Something changed on that day. Something that has not unaligned since. I want to be very, very careful here. I want to be careful because I don't want to make this sound so mystical in a way that makes it feel inaccessible. It was not a vision. It's not audible voice. It's not even a specific moment I can pinpoint on a clock. It was the accumulation of these 35 days of refusing to lie to myself. Becoming freedom. That's a good way of saying it. The most ordinary and the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to me. And I've been living in that every day since. Every day since. Every morning is the best morning. Every day is the best day. Not because my circumstances are perfect. They are not. They're never going to be. Not even close. Not because I'm no longer living a life that's not mine. I am home in myself for the first time. So let me tell you what these 35 days are going to look like. We're going to spend this first week or so laying the foundation, understanding the invisible architecture of a life that doesn't belong to you, but you've been living it. The contracts, the roles, the installed identities that have been running on top of your true self, that have been covering you up and burying you. Not so you feel bad about them, so that you can see them. And then we're going to move into the excavation, to the discovery. This is where we start to identify what's underneath, what your actual signal sounds like, what you were designed for, not what you were assigned to. There's a difference. This is the most demanding part of the work and also the most alive part. But it's hard. People who have done this describe it as feeling like they're finally being spoken to in their native language for the first time, on top of the fact they feel like they're drowning, but yet able to breathe. I wrote a poem about that in 23. Drowning to live. Look it up. And then after that, we're going to talk about alignment and how what you've discovered, what you've excavated, what you've dug up, and begin to build a life around it. Not dramatically, not all at once. It's not transformation that just decides to just next day I'm just a different person. No, you're the same person. You're just learning who you are. And it's 1 degree shifts, 1 degree at a time. Not big turns, not big decisions, small consistency in who you are, which is how real and lasting transformation works. And then we're going to talk about the amplified life, the true life of freedom, life of autonomy. Not free of responsibility or obligation or discipline, but free for those things. The life that is possible when who you are and how you live are no longer in conflict, no longer opposed. When you stop spending energy on the performance and all of that energy becomes available for living. You stop trying to remember the role and just live as you. This is where we're going. Morning by morning by morning. So here's a question I want you to sit with today. I want you to really sit with it, not 30 seconds, but some actual time throughout your day. Have you already had a hall moment that you never walked through? Because most people have. Most people have had at least one moment, maybe more than one, when honesty arrived. Something aligned and the door opened, and they stood at the threshold and chose familiar over free. They chose comfort over the door. They chose to deal and embrace. They chose to brace the known instead of the territory that moment was pointing toward, because it was comfortable. I use sticky notes when I'm teaching. Somebody said some time ago, conformity over comfort. And I can't remember the context of that conversation because it was last summer on a call. I know who said it. But I've left that here on the desk for a while because I think conformity and comfort are the same thing in a lot of ways. Because we're not looking for comfort. We're looking for the courage to be who we are. We're looking to walk through these moments every single time they come. Not just the first few times, which is what some people do. But we see a door. We see that it is opened. Something we already know at the level that we can't unknow it, and yet we haven't walked through it yet. We've tried to ignore it. Is there one of those for you? Maybe there is. Because here's the crazy thing. You can ignore it all you want. You can avoid it all you want, but the door is there and you know it's there. And you avoid going down that hall anymore because you don't want to have to be faced with the truth that door is life. Open one direction and it has not closed. It never closes, and you can't come back through it once you go through it. You just haven't stepped through, and so you still linger, being the person that you think you're supposed to be rather than being the person that you are. And you'll argue your faith. You'll argue your family. You'll say, this is just the way I am. This is what I've been. No, it's not. You want to argue faith? Reach out. I'll show you what the Bible actually teaches about this. Be surprised. This is day 4. 4 days in on this. You're building something that you might not even realize. Tomorrow we get started in the specific architecture of what keeps people stuck. And that conversation is going to be very practical and very personal, very useful and very poignant. So tell somebody about this if you think they might need to hear it. Why? Because something that's genuinely useful is worth passing on. And be well, and I'll see you in the morning. Let's set you free.